Ninja. Alright, so we just finished filming Way of the Panda, and I figured I'd give you more of an impromptu review versus something more formal, give you my thoughts of the game. Before we do me a favor, leave a like on the video, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's very encouraging for me to see people that actually like the content, and it helps me want to continue making more. So let's get into it. So Way of the Panda, we just finished, like I said, doing the playthrough. We got everything pretty much just still set up the way it was. I'll give you what I like about the game and what I think could possibly be better about the game. So I'm just going to start with the negative of it first. The negatives is that a lot of times trying to teach this game to a new player, it does not go over very well. It's very AP prone because there's so many different actions for each one of the characters. It takes forever to make a decision on what you want to do, and especially seems how once you do make a selection, you got to continuously either go to the right or down on this action board, and that could make it to where new players are just staring at the game board and then they're staring at this action board and they just can't quite put their finger on what they want to do. Now this is my fourth game of it, so I'm starting to get a little bit better with it, but I'm not going to lie, my first couple of games of this, they just felt like they just really dragged on because I just could not figure out what the hell I wanted to do in this game. And then on the board itself with the three different types of characters, you know, we've got a monk, a governor, and a warrior. I mean, they're all pretty much the exact same character. Now, there are some actions that do differentiate them. For instance, you know, you can sell the quests or these little treasures from the monk and get 6 victory points, and he's the only one who can actually do that, but it is costing you, I mean, you're gaining a few points is all you're really doing, because when you sell it off, unless you can get it back, I mean, that is counting negatively towards you at the end of the game, because then your multiplier is going to be lower. So do that with caution. I wouldn't go crazy with that. I mean, I guess you could, if you're in a pinch, just go ahead and sell off 1 or 2 at the most, but I wouldn't sell off too many because it isn't worth it. The other thing too is just like with the warrior, I mean, you know, he's a little bit more powerful than the other characters. And then I just guess when it comes to the monk, he feels like the odd man out because he's just as strong as the governor. He doesn't have any special abilities that he can really do outside of just being on the board. So having 3 different characters, all these actions, and then being on the board, I mean, it's a lot to really think about and process. And what ends up typically happening is that 1 or 2 of the characters kind of get forgotten about, and the only reason that you don't forget about them is because you need them to be able to build their type of building that relates to them. Like, you know, the monk's got to build the gate, the governor's got to build the market, and the warrior's got to build the pagoda. And, you know, outside of that, you know, you're just constantly being frustrated because they can't move enough because they can't get through these ninjas that are on the roads. So it's a little puzzly, and it can be a little frustrating for new players. Other than that, let's kind of get into the good. So we've kind of covered the negative. I think it's more too AP prone, and I think it's going to drag on longer than what players are going to expect. The positives is that once you do start getting a good grasp of the game, you start getting a little bit better. Your decisions are kind of quicker because you're getting more focused on what you want to do. And you'll see that in my playthrough. As it started winding down, I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do with each one of these player boards. And playing 2 player boards and the fact that the video didn't really take that long shows you just as you get more experience with the game, you can be a little bit quicker with your decision-making abilities. I do think that it is neat as you're going around, you kind of want to strategically place, you know, your own little guards all around the board in order that whenever these capitals or some of these buildings are being built, that you can start gaining victory points even though you're not the one who actually did that action. You know, a yellow player builds a building here, but because purple has guards here, you know, purple is still getting points for that. And that is a way to try to keep the game from running away too much on you, even though, you know, an 11-point game I think is pretty reasonable. The other thing I really think makes this game great is this action board. Now, even though it is confusing, there's a lot of stuff going on here, I do like the way that they programmed this, because if you start looking at this more of a logical board, whereas it's like, okay, look at each one of your characters. Do you want to move your monk? Okay, no. All right, then good. Forget it. Do you want to move your governor? Yeah, I think I do. Okay, place a guy there. How much does that cost? 0. So that's easy. And then what I also like about this is that as you systematically just start eliminating actions and just kind of going down, you can see how many action points you do have. And that's where I think the game is really neat as well, because you just can't just immediately shoot down here and try to do something really fast and be like, I'm the first person to do that. And then it costs you your action points, but now you're stuck down at the bottom of this board because you can't go back up, you can't go left, and you can't go back up. So now you're stuck down here, and that's where these action points really do kind of keep the balance in the game and kind of keeping a player from just trying to do whatever the crap that they want on this action board. And I do also like the fact that if you do try to shoot down too fast, then you're not really getting enough of your guys onto the board here to be able to collect up at the end of the round to be able to gain more action points for the beginning of the next round. So the balance of this is absolutely brilliant. I think they did a phenomenal job with the action board. I do think that the components and the miniatures look absolutely phenomenal, and it's a CMON game, and that's not anything anti-typical of what they do. They always produce some great quality components, and the board is absolutely beautiful to look at. It can be a bit distracting with so much stuff on the board, though, and I think that that could be something that could cause people some issues as well with the AP. But I also do like how each one of the characters, as you build them up, you do have quite a few decisions to make. Where do you want to build? Obviously, these locations here on these corners, I mean, you've seen how many points Purple did get from that. Obviously not enough, and that mainly came down to those 2 end-game cards, which is only used in the expert mode, and I'll talk about those in just a second. But depending on where you want to build is really what's going to kind of like encourage you and just kind of keep you more focused and driving towards just that goal. Once yellow realized, boom, boom, I want to build capitals, and then purple was over here like, okay, well, I want to build my capital here because I want to keep rebounding, bouncing off of this as well. That kind of became the focus. And you could see this is only 2 players. If we had 4 players going on here, it would get absolutely bonkers. These being in limited supply kind of make you want to try to grab them up as quick as you can. Try to build up your characters, make them a little bit stronger so they can move around the board easier, plus give them little treasures there on the right hand side so that they can use those to get more victory points at the end of the game. I like all that. That is really neat. It is a little frustrating when you start running out of your little guys here and then you have to go to the neutral character guards, but hey, that's just part of it. You want to try to focus on what the goals are, and that's what I want to cover now. So like, if I was playing this for realsies, against another opponent, I would have probably tried to focus on doing this, trying to connect 2 opposite sides of the map. So like purple was getting kind of close to it, and I guess yellow technically was too, but these kind of give you a little bit more of something to look towards. It's like, okay, this is something simple. I'm just going to go, take a character from this side of the board to that side of the board, and I'm just going to collect me 15 points. And I like that. So this is only used in the expert game, but I don't know why you wouldn't use it in all games, because it kind of gives you something that you can just kind of look at towards as a goal versus just trying to wander around the board not knowing what you're doing, especially your first game. And then the other thing too is just like, this is an end game one, and then you want to see, okay, well, hey, if I can build a capital or a city or a capital and try to get as many of my guards around him, that's beneficial too. And if you notice, that's what yellow did here. She built so many of her own guards around these 2 capitals that, just dominating. That was 30 more points for her at the end of the game. So very cool. So I think it's got a lot of great things going on for it. But the issues is that it's going to be a game that people are going to play and they're going to say, this is taking too long, it's dragging on, I don't want to play anymore. I would never want to recommend this with 4 players because I think there'd be way too much downtime in between turns. But I do think with 2 players, it plays fairly well. Would it be my game of choice? Absolutely not. I think it's beautiful. I do enjoy playing it, but I don't think that this game shines enough for me to ever say I choose this one over something else that's in my collection that plays probably a lot better 2-player. Is it a game that I would like to set up every once in a while and teach my friends? Sure. But the issue once again falls back into, how are your friends playing? Are they AP prone? Are they going to have to be taught the game fresh again? And then are we going to be sitting there for 2 hours twiddling our thumbs, be like, God, I regret getting myself into this situation. It's a game that needs a lot of repetitive play for you to really enjoy. And without that, and if you can't get that to your game table enough, I don't think this is going to be a game for you. I enjoy it, but I don't know if I enjoy it enough that it's going to end up staying in my collection. I think it's one of those games that's just right there on the border where you really had a lot of hopes for it, but then at the end, you're just kind of like, all right, well, that was it. And, well, let's set something else up and play.